In 2018, Fortnite was at the top. It pulled in numbers which were never seen before. The game was growing rapidly and everyone was talking about it around the world. What else happened big in 2018? Well, of course, the launch of Avengers Infinity War. Marvel saw this as a huge opportunity to bring the two big titles together. So Epic Games announced a crossover in 2018 right after the launch of Fortnite Season 4. And it was the biggest thing that ever happened. Before that, no such company has ever done such a big crossover. With that crossover brought a limited time mode in which Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet would spawn randomly in the map and whoever got it turned into Thanos. This was the first time ever such a thing happened. You all thought that would be the last time we would ever hear from Marvel and Epic Games. Well, you were wrong. 1 year later, Avengers Endgame came into theaters. What a better way to celebrate was to do a crossover again. At the time, Fortnite Season 8 was taking place. So what came with this crossover? A brand new LTM with two teams, Thanos and Team Avengers. Team Thanos' job was to collect all the stones first to get a stone turned into Thanos. And once the team got all 5 stones, they won. But Team Avengers on the other hand had all Avengers weapons to use, which included Thor's Stormbreaker, Captain America's shield, Iron Man's glove, and much more. It also brought Marvel skins into the item shop, which included Black Widow and Star-Lord. Also, there was a series of challenges which came with this event, which if you completed rewarded you with free items, including a Avengers glider. This whole event was called Fortnite And Game. And indeed, this was the largest event ever in Fortnite. Since the launch of Fortnite Chapter 2, there wasn't any such big event which included Marvel and Fortnite. But there still hasn't been a couple additions in-game which hinted that Fortnite and Marvel's connection is still there. Like in Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 2, the secret Battle Pass skin was Deadpool. And Fortnite also added a dedicated POI for him. Also they added his mythic weapons which were the Deadpool's hand cannon. Then after that Fortnite went silent again, but during Season 3 they brought the Captain America skin for 4th of July. And also with the launch of Marvel's Avengers, Marvel also announced Hulk and Iron Man's pickaxes. And that was pretty much it until... So we are near the end of Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 3. It's the time when we get the teaser for the next season. And what's the first teaser? It's Thor and Marvel's logo. Well, here comes Marvel again, but it's not just a small event. This is a full story, and this may be the biggest season to date. So let's talk about what is happening at this moment, the background of Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 4. So Thor has just been awarded as the new king of Asgard after the death of his father Odin, and it's been 2 weeks until Galactus came to Asgard to consume the power of Asgard, as Galactus needs 5 planets to consume in order to move the Black Winter behind and restore his planet. Thor and Galactus gets into a fight because Thor doesn't want his planet to be destroyed, but then Silver Surfer, Galactus' herald, tells Thor that Galactus just wants his planet to be restored. Thor understands, but Galactus gets a vision that Thor might finish him, so Galactus turns Thor into an herald using his power. Heralds are basically Galactus' servants who finds Galactus a powerful alien, and Galactus is the most powerful character in the whole Marvel universe. So now Asgard is safe and Thor helps him find another planet. While Thor, the Herald of Thunder, and Galactus go look for the planet, they see a rift opening up. Galactus feels 0 points energy and goes towards it. Thor tries to stop him, but he does not stop. So Thor goes as well to warn the people of that planet. Similar in the world of Fortnite, a giant rift appears on top of Catty Corner. Then through that rift, Thor enters into the Fortnite Island and meets up with the Fortnite characters to warn them. As he's about to do so, Jonesy shoots him in the back. Thor gets angry and hits Jonesy and Peely. He flies up and his hammer slips out of the hand and lands somewhere else. He gets more angry and fights everyone. Also in the Fortnite map, Thor's hammer is found near Salty Springs, which has created a giant divot. But if you were wondering how Fortnite and Marvel's worlds collided, the answer is through a rift.